Hey everyone, this is Mel from Cardstock Concoctions. I am back with part 2 of our 8x8 basic memory box tutorial here for you guys today. And we are actually ready for assembly of the box itself. So the first video we went through all of the prep work as well as all the dimensions and all of the supplies that you are going to need. This video we're going to go through the assembly of the box itself. And then in the third video, we will go over the decorations and how to add that, basically the ribbon stopper that doesn't allow it to completely flop open. So everybody ready? Let's go ahead and get started. What you're first gonna need to do is your frames that you built in part 1, go ahead and set those aside. You're not gonna need those for a while. They actually just get in the way. You're going to take all of your sides, you're going to set all of your sides to the side, and one of your 8x8 chipboards, set that to the side as well. You want the other one in front of you. Your 4 by 1 inch and 4 1/8 by 1 inch hinges, set those up to the top. You're going to want to grab out 4 of your 8 by 1 inch. That's what we're going to start with. All right, so again, you're gonna need 4 of the 1 by 8 inch hinges that we prepared in the first one. For those of you who haven't seen that video, 4 of these go for the base. They are 1 inch tall, 8 inches wide, scored down the middle at 1/2 inch, and we have applied adhesive tape. Now, I actually place all my hinges, this is gonna be my base piece, so pick whichever piece of 8x8 you want as your base. This is actually going to be my base piece. Fun, fun, fun. I'm going to attach all 4 of my hinges around my base, and then we're going to go ahead and add the sides. So how do I attach my hinges? First and foremost, peel off the backing to your tape. Now, something I did not say that you were going to need in my supplies videos, have a garbage can handy. Mine is actually off to the side of my workspace here that I just kind of toss things into. But definitely have a garbage can handy. All right, so we've peeled off one piece of the backing to the adhesive. Now, these things are 8 inches by 8 inches. So I lift my piece just slightly, and you're gonna see that you guys have that little bump in there from where you folded on your score line. Do not cover your bump. You want to go just one hair whisper away from that bump. You want to leave that bump to fold completely clean on its own. So do not attach it to the fold, okay? Don't go all the way up to the fold. But you do want to make sure you are as nice and straight and even as you can possibly get. Now, to help me not go over that fold, I do actually kind of leave it slightly bent. And then I just stick it down. And again, as nice and even as you can go. Now I'm going to do side 2. We're just going to repeat this process 4 times while you're backing off. Just to let you guys know, I do use a paper piercer to pull my backing off. Edge of your craft knife works. If you've got really great fingernails, which I don't have, like I actually just kind of busted off a couple of these before working on this project. Anything works, just peel the backing off. I just have no fingernails. And again, to line mine up just away from that fold, which unfortunately you guys won't be able to see, but I do not, cover the fold. I do leave mine slightly folded in order to prevent this. And I stick it down. Okay. And I'm going to rotate. Do the same thing again. Stick it down. All right, once I have all 4 sides attached, I turn mine over and I take my bone folder and I go back and I run it over everything, making very, diligently working on the corners. And the reason why I do that is to ensure stick. Your adhesive is good adhesive to begin with if you're using score tape or redline tape or tear tape or whatever. But, to ensure it's going to work to its optimum performance, go ahead and run your bone folder around it, okay? All right. Nice, beautiful. This should be the bottom of your box now, all right? Now comes the fun, tricky part, is we're gonna start adding sides. And you have 2 pieces that measure 4 by 8, and you have 2 pieces that measure 4 by 7 7/8. You need to make sure you apply these accordingly. So, whichever side you decide to place your 4 by 8, the side opposite to that needs to also be a 4 by 8, okay? So we're gonna do those ones first. I'm just gonna pick literally my 2 sides. That's how I'm gonna do it. So if I decided to do this side as a 4 by 8, the one directly across from it also has to be 4 by 8. So your 4 by 8s have to be parallel to each other, as do your 7 7/8 have to be parallel to each other. Otherwise, your box is not going to go together correctly. Okay? Now, many boxes are built so that you put this in here and then you fold it up. That's wonderful. That's great. Happy hunky-dory. I found that my lid did not close quite right, and then I had to, have 8 1/8 of an inch, and that threw off measurements. Not neat, not so much fun. So how we're going to line it up, and you might want to test doing this on your own first before you pull off the adhesive backing. I line up my chipboard right on the edge of my other chipboard. Nice and close to your edge. Side to side, top to bottom, all nice and centered. And I mean right on your edge, okay? So once I have it all lined up, I go ahead and I peel off the backing of the tape. And I use my bone folder sometimes, and I just totally popped myself off. Ah. All right, there we go. And I just stick it down. Okay, I stuck it down. Now I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees, and I'm going to repeat the same process. And I'm going to go through that again with you guys one more time. So I took my piece and side to side, top to bottom, lined up all my edges and my corners. Nice and tight and flush. This just allows the top of your box to close more evenly and a little more sturdy, to be honest with you. There we go. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to rotate 90 degrees, and the top and the bottom are now officially going to be out of camera range. But I'm going to grab in one of the 4 and 7 7/8 inch piece. So now, in order to make sure everything gets lined up properly, I bring up, you guys can see I brought up the back portion of my box, and I lined up it, I lined it up at the corners, on the edge. Oops. Actually, not on the edge yet. But I make sure I'm all nice and lined up and even. I always test it. I always bring up the other side of my box as well, just to make sure it's nice and pretty. I peel off the backing, I fold, and I stick. And you're going to see that your original hinge is going to be a little bit longer on both sides than your actual chipboard. That is okay. Do not concern yourselves, okay? So always go back and test, because if you need to rip something off, now is the time to do it when you have less stuff to attach, or less stuff to rip, I should say. So mine looks all nice and pretty right here. Nice and perfect, good corners. Actually, I'm off. Okay, so I have all this stuff ready to go. We're gonna do the other side. All right, so we are now ready to attach the fourth side to our box. We have our 2 4x8 pieces, our 1 4x7 7/8, and we're ready to attach the second one. So again, we're gonna pull up the first, or one of the sides, one of the 4x8 sides. I'm going to line up my piece on the edge of my 8x8. And we're going to get it all nice and lined up and pretty and ready to go. Being nice and diligent, watching to my spacing. Peel off the back of my adhesive and then stick it down. And at this point in time, I'm also going to pull up my front half. Make sure that nice and lines up and makes the nice pretty corners. Make sure it looks all nice and pretty on the inside. Sorry for my head in the way. Typically, I like to pull up my last piece as well. Yes. So by the time you see that, you guys can kind of see that it's now upright. Everything works nice and well. I'm going to turn it over. Sorry, my paper piercer kind of flew in here. And I'm now going to burnish this down on all sides. Again, it ensures good stick, and it's going to be a lot tougher to get it to come up. All right, so your box should look like this. And what you're seeing right now is actually the inside of your box. The outside of your box, you will actually have the hinges attached. Sound good? Sounds great to me. Now comes the time when we need to apply the hinges that actually hold it together. And when I mean the ones that hold it together, I mean, you know, you're going to need a hinge to hold your box sides together. And the way to do that is always to go and put one there. So you're going to want to grab your hinges that measure 1 inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry, guys. All right, so 4 inches by 4 inches by 1 inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. Now I did have one that was much taller than all the other ones. Don't ask me why. Now, these may need to be trimmed down just a smidge depending on how well you cut your box and how well you cut your pieces and how evenly everything was cut. Now, I don't know if you guys can actually see my piece, but I'm gonna turn this on its side. But I'm a little bit over, okay? So I always make sure I cut to what math says I should cut to. And then I always figure I've got a pair of paper snips. I can always trim. And you always want to trim in very, very small increments. Okay? And you want to trim one side at a time. So don't assume all your sides are going to be wrong. Don't assume they're all going to be right. And I actually wound up trimming pretty much perfect. And again, you want to trim very little at a time. So again, very small increments. You guys can see you now have no black overhang. And how I do this is I take one side chit, and I do the same thing that I did with my bottom hinges. Let's get this so you guys can actually see. Now, what I did with my bottom hinge is that I always kind of kept it a little bit crooked there, and I made sure it goes all the way down into to the bottom of the chipboard, as well as to the top of this piece of chipboard. Made it nice and straight. I didn't cover over the fold. And I stuck it down. So I know those two sides are going to work. I'm going to rotate it around. It's always kind of nice to remember what side is what. Now your 8-inch side should come up first, and your 4 7 7/8 side should come up second, and it should kind of nestle inside of your 8-inch side, as you guys can see there. So this is my, let's get this one out of the way. This is my 4 by 8 inches. This is my 4 by 7 7/8. So I bring this one up first, bring this one up second, and it goes just on the inside of my 8-inch side. Okay. Create a nice, even, beautiful edge. We're going to repeat the testing of the hinge. And I need, again, just like the first time I did this, I'll show you. You can see just a little bit of black overhang. Oops. On the edge there. I need to trim that off. Again, I do this in very small increments. And I do mine while folded. And you may have to try this a couple of times. Okay. And again, I apparently cut very, very well, which is abnormal for me. I'm also going to cut the small piece here off of this hinge, just for placement reasons. I wanted to make sure that doesn't interfere. Remove the tape backing. There are going to be some people that will say, you know, actually I'm going to do it on the 8-inch side, that say apply all your hinges and then do your trimming. I don't do that. I do them one at a time. There we go. Sorry, I got a little quiet there. I wanted to make sure I placed these properly. So if you guys can't tell, I am placing mine on my 8-inch sides and not my 7 and 7/8-inch sides. That's just personal preference. So I'm going to repeat the process for the next side. And again, I need to trim off just a little bit here. Okay. And then I'm sticking it down. Now you may be wondering how much am I really trimming off? I'm probably trimming off from each one of mine about 1/16 of an inch. Probably not any more than that. Otherwise I don't actually wind up getting all the way down to the bottom. There we go. I'm going to trim off the edge of this one too, because it's getting in my way. Okay, let's do our last side here. Now, I like my corner to be the furthest one away from me because I can see it. This one was cut wrong, so I need to pull off a little bit more of this one than I do of the other ones. Perfect. Okay. I use the furthest side from me because I can see it the best. You may choose to use a different, you know, the closest side to you. Whatever works right for you. And again, line it up, top to bottom, side to side. Don't go over your fold. Stick it down. Now I'm going to turn mine over. I'm going to burnish. Okay, so that's all done. And we are actually ready to attach our sides together to each other. So you're going to want to pull up one piece that is the 4 by 7 and 7/8. The other piece is going to be the 4 by 8. You're going to hold it together, come around. I sometimes lay mine on the side. Sometimes that works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. Figure out what's best for you in order to line things up properly and carefully and completely and nicely and all that kind of fun jazz. Line mine up on the edge there. Stick it down. Okay. I'm going to go to my next corner. I'm going to do it again so you guys might be able to get a better view from here. I am so sorry. I totally just bumped the light, guys. So I'm going to line this up on the edge. Again, I turn mine on my side because it's easier for me. If yours is easier holding it up and down, that's wonderful. I say go ahead and do that. If you do not make sure yours are nicely or properly lined up, your box is not going to stick together very well. All right, so I'm going to go from the ends, maybe another outside look like that. Ugh. There we go. Again, I'm trying to keep track of which side is my 8-inch side and which side is my 7 and 7/8 side. So I want one to fit into the other. And we stick it down. Your last one should be fairly easy. I'm going to go from this other direction again. And we stick it down. One piece I apparently did not trim even. I'm just going to go back and trim that off. There we go. Now, once you have your hinges attached, look at the top of your box. If you see excess black sticking up over your top of your chipboard, you are going to want to go ahead and trim that off. You may want to choose to grab your craft knife. Okay, at this point in time, this is what your box looks like, all nice put together. Again, if your little black cardstock, you know, your cardstock hinges pop up over the edge of your cardstock, even after you've trimmed them the first time, you may want to go back and take another look at them. Just be on the safe side, clean them up, things like that. Now we are going to want to attach the top flap next, or at least the outside piece of the top flap next. And we're going to go ahead and do that. So how to do that, you need to find one of your 4 by 8 inch sides. Again, find one of your 4 by 8 inch sides. So I've got one here, which means I have one here. And that's when we're going to attach our top flap to this. Now, part of the reason why you want to make sure that everything is all nice and neat and lined up is because if you don't, your flap is just going to go like this. It's going to, like, when you attach it, it's not going to stay up like it's supposed to. So you need to make sure that everything is nice and even and lined up and pretty and, you know, looking good before we attach this top flap. And I take my piece and I just kind of lay it on top, and you know, that's kind of my good heave-ho as to whether it's properly made or not. Is if I can get it to attach and lay there nice and pretty. So we're going to set that 8 by 8 piece aside. I'm going to turn my box on its side. Make sure your 8 inch side is the one you're working on. You want to grab another 1 inch by 8 inch hinges. Pull off your edges. And we are going to attach that hinge. Again, you want to make sure you leave space so that it can fold. You want folding space. Nice and pretty and beautiful, okay? I'm gonna turn this over and I'm going to gently burnish this. You know, it might be easier if I do it from the inside. Burnish that down. You may want to choose to burnish all the edges to your cardstock hinges at this point in time by pressing your seals, so your creases. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of running over where my hinges should be located, just to press the cardstock or the chipboard into the adhesive. I do need to do this one because I can see that I didn't do it yet. And last but not least, sorry if you guys can't see me working on the inside of the box. There we go. Now comes attaching the top. And again, I lay my 8 by 8 piece over the top of my box so that I know exactly where it's going to fall. Okay? And I hold it in place and I look at it from all angles before I do this. And if you move it, you unfortunately need to start over again. All right. I think I've almost got this. Okay. As long as I don't move it again. Take off the back to your adhesive. Fold it over. Stick it down. Again, if you're going to change something, this is the time to change it. All right. Once it's down and you like it, take your bone folder and burnish. Burnish, 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 burnish. Okay. So your box now looks like this and it opens. Congratulations, it does open. And as you add more weight to this, it will stay down flatter, just to let you guys know. Okay, so this is what your box looks like at this point in time. It opens, it's all constructed. That's what your back looks like, and your bottom. Everything is looking really good at this point in time. Now comes what we call the finishing hinges. And so some are classified as constructional hinges, the ones we've already attached. The others are called finishing hinges. And these are kind of to reinforce your structural hinges as well as to make everything look nice and pretty. So we're gonna go ahead and do all of those next. I like to put in my inside finishing corner hinges first and then do the other hinges on top of those. Now those I cut at 1 inch by 4 inches. Again, I test all of these before I put them in there. So how I do my inside hinges is I take, ours originally looked kind of like this, and we all did the outside ones like this. This time we're gonna fold it the other direction, and we're gonna slide it in here. Now, I apparently need to remove just a smidge of length on this one. Let's see if that's gonna be nice and pretty. Okay, that fits beautifully on that one. I'm gonna do this corner next. Take a smidge off that side. All right, a little bit too much actually was taken off. Part of the reason why I put these in first. Going on to the third corner of my box. That actually looks like it's gonna fit perfectly. And my fourth corner. I need to pull off just a little bit. So again, I'm working off here to the side. Pull off just a smidge. Put it back in for sizing. Perfect. All right, so I've got all 4 of them cut and ready to go. So for these, I'm not actually nice and pretty about it. I actually take off both sides of the tape. My piece is actually already held together. So what I do is I take off both sides of the tape. I'm sorry for my head, but I jam the fold into the corner as far and as tight as it will go, and then I sit it in there and I press it down. Okay, I'm gonna do that again for you, so you guys can see this from multiple angles. I'll do the last 2 when the box is on its side, so you guys can see it from that direction. Again, I take the folded edge, I jam it as far and as hard into there as I possibly can, and then I just kind of smooth it out, okay? Now I'm going to do this on the inside here so that everybody can kind of see what I'm doing. Turn the box on its side. I will tell you, the box on its side is a little bit easier to see, but for camera reasons, I want to show it to you from a couple of angles. I take the piece, make sure it's folded in half. Both sides of my tape are off. Sorry for my head and my arm, but unfortunately you guys are gonna have to deal with my arm. Just jam that in there real tight, nice and tight, so it kind of looks like that. And then I just stick my tape down. So we're gonna do it one more time on the last corner and just kind of stick it down. Okay? There it goes. So the inside of your box now looks like this. Now I always take my bone folder in and I always reinforce the adhesive stick. Sorry, the flap got in the way there, guys. And because I think I did this side, but I'm not sure. There we go. All right, so now you're ready for your other finishing hinges. So the first one I always do is actually my top flap finishing hinge. And I always like to attach one side, and that typically is the side that I attach to my 8x8 chipboard. So I'll do that side first. And how I like to do mine is I take the fold. I did not take off both sides. I only took off one side of tape. But I take the fold. This is just how I do it. And I kind of, you know, put it in the fold. I can't see it this way. I'm sorry, guys. I'm doing this on the side. And I just kind of line up the edge with the edge of the chipboard. The edge with the edge of the lovely piece here, and I kind of stick. Now you're going to notice there's going to be some extra resistance right there, all right? And I don't like that extra bulk in there, I take my scissors and I just make a small angular cut so that it folds in and goes down nice and pretty. I do this on both sides. Unfortunately, can I turn it this way and actually cut? You guys saw me do it on the first side. Do it here again on the second side. I just cut off at an angle a piece. Now the piece looks kind of like this here. Put it on the white so you guys can actually see it. It's just a little triangle. And it allows my box to close without resistance. I think I need to go a little bit more on this side. So you'll see, well, maybe you won't see because it's black on black, I'm sorry. But when I fold it over, I don't want any resistance. I don't want any, you know, I don't want anything that's going to hinder it folding. So if you have things that are kind of like overlapping or kind of pushing, this is my way of kind of getting rid of that. Now that I know it's all nice down, nice and pretty, I'm going to take off the backing of the tape. I cannot work that way. I'm so sorry, guys. I have to work this way. There we go. I'm not great because I can't flip and turn this the way that I can always see it. You guys will be able to do this a lot easier than I can due to the fact that you're not going to have to worry about a camera and what you guys can see. Then just push it down and use your bone folder to go back in and reinforce. Nice and strong reinforcement. Now the notches that you take out, you don't want to go so deep that you're going to see the edge of the cardstock over here or the chipboard, I should not cardstock, the edge of the chipboard on either side. You don't want to go that deep. You don't need to go that deep. It will not help you. It will probably actually just hinder you. Next, you want to make sure that your box still folds. Go ahead and fold it again. You know, if you were actually, you know, waiting, you're doing pieces of this each day or each night or whatever, turn your box upside down. And you may even want to put something that's actually got a little bit of weight on it. Now, every once in a while, when I find that I add that finishing hinge to the inside, I do throw off the fit of the top of my box. Every once in a while. Mine's actually not bad. There's not actually that much of an overlapping gap this time. So that's nice. That's good. And as long as it's even and consistent, that's okay too. So again, you may want to take, you know, I'm using stamping blocks as you guys can see. You know, at night, if you guys are doing this in multiple times, just kind of sit them there. It just kind of reinforces that fold. You're training your paper to do what it wants to do. Again, I would do that at night, not in the middle of your project, just to let you guys all know. This is another time that you want to go around and you want to look at all of your edges on everything and make sure that you have no overhang in paper. If you do, go ahead and trim that off. I will be back right after I do. Okay, everyone, so I've gone ahead and I've double checked all my edges and I've kind of cleaned up my workspace just a little bit here from all of the backing to all the tape and things. And let's go ahead and we're going to start attaching the rest of the finishing hinges. I'm going to start with the lid of the box and then I'm going to go to the inside of the box and you guys are going to see how that's all done, okay? So you're going to want to grab out a hinge and one side. So just like we did on the back, we're going to line up the top, the bottom of the hinge. Make sure we're not impeding the fold of the hinge at all. Okay. I'm just going to rotate. I'm going to do the next side. Again, peel off one side of your adhesive. You guys find that you have a little bit of overlap, you're going to want to trim that off now because otherwise yours will not close right. Okay, so you got to keep an eye on the overlap in case you have any. And we are going to line up the edges. Don't impede your fold. Go ahead and stick it down. Again, if you have any overlap, I strongly suggest trimming it off now. There we go. Because later is not really an option, or it makes it much more difficult later. And I'm doing some of my due diligence here, making sure there's no overlap. Okay, there's not going to be overlap there. Beautiful. Top, bottom. Beautiful. Okay. So you're going to want to decide on what order you want to do everything in. I like doing my sides first. Now, I'm going to take it. I'm going to pull as hard as I can, and then I'm going to stick it down. Okay? You want to pull. You want to make your edges nice and clean and crisp. You want to pull your edges. So you're finishing hinges along all of your edges. You're going to want to pull nice and tight and then burnish them all down. Okay? I'll do my other edge over here. I'm going to pull nice and tight. Pull nice and tight and wrap. You want to make them nice and tight. You want to make them nice and crisp. And then you're going to want to burnish them down. Okay? You don't want your edges coming up. You want to make it nice and pretty. And I'm totally moving my grid paper down here on the bottom. I apologize, everybody. As I said, when I pull quite tight. All right. And now for my top piece. This one's also very, very important. You're going to pull nice and tight. Pull, 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 nice and tight. And then you're going to burnish it down. So your top now looks like this, without all the extra pieces of glue stuck to it. Apologize for that. Got an 8x8 top, so your top looks like that. Hinge looks like that. And like that. All right. So now let's go on to the rest of the box. Again, I do the two sides first. Grab one hinge. You're going to line up the corners. And you don't want to impede your fold on either side. So this is actually the nicest thing about this flap right here. It now stops your paper, okay? Just make sure you don't go over your fold. If you have any excess, you want to trim it now. Sorry guys, I can't do it that way. Okay, I've trimmed my excess. I'm gonna do the same thing over on this side. Again, I do my two sides and then I do my front. To me, it allows for a cleaner looking finish. Just a personal preference. And again, I use this back of the top of the lid as actually a stopper for myself. Sorry for my head in the camera, guys. Don't impede the fold of your hinge. Go ahead and go in there. Do it again. Be right back after I clean up my extra edge. All right, I've cleaned up my edge and now I'm going to do my front piece. Again, I'm going to take off just one half of the page. Unfortunately, the lid of the box is going to get in our way. I apologize. As well as my head. My head will also get in the way. Okay, so we're going to do the front edge of the box. Unfortunately, the lid and possibly my head will get in the way. I apologize, everybody. But you need to line it up nice and pretty and straight. All right, there we go. Stick it down. If you have any overhang, that is not well stuck. Okay. All right, so everything is nice and well stuck down on that side. Nothing has overhang. Yes, beautiful. Okay, checking all my sides just one more time. Now to do like the fold over on the inserts. Again, I do the two sides and then I do the front. And same thing with this hinge that we did on the inside here. I like to taper my edges just a little bit on both sides. So again, take your scissors and just trim off a small corner. Again, I start small, and you can always do extra, you can never do less. I fold over and then I make sure that I have nothing that is going to impede the fold of my paper. I like that side. I'm gonna do the next side. Again, I take off, I mean, when I say little teeny tiny pieces, I do mean little teeny tiny pieces. I mean, you're just taking off just a little bit, just tapering just a little bit here. That side apparently needs to go just a little bit more. Beautiful. Again, there's nothing that's going to impede the fold of my paper. At this point in time, I do like to stick down my two sides just so that I've got a clean view of what my front is going to do. And again, I pull as tight as I can and I stick it down. You want to make it nice, you want to make it tight, you want to make it complete and firm. And then take your bone folder in there, reinforce your adhesive. Run it on your edge if you want to. Reinforce your corners. Okay. I'm going to do the other side. Pulling off the back. I'm going to pull as I put down. If you pull too hard, you will rip your paper, so try not to pull too hard. Stick it down. Work the side of your chipboard there. Make a nice, even, pretty. All right. Now it's the time to check the front of my box and how that's going to close. I apologize, my mat moves again. All right. And again, I do need to trim a little bit on my front. So I take my scissors, taper in that edge, taper in my other edge. Stuck on my fingers. And then I double check to see if it impedes any of the, does not impede the closure of my box at all. Nicely done. Nicely done. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to take off the backing. I'm going to pull nice and tight. All right, so you should have 4 hinges left. And these 4 hinges are actually designed to go on the inside of your base. Again, take them, fold them in half. The easiest way is to take the first one, put it in, see if you need to trim any off. Little increments are best until you know how much you need. Apparently I way overdid this one. All right. Okay, so I've trimmed enough off. I'm gonna pull off both sides. Maybe. Can I find my paper piercer? Oh, there it is. All right, I found my paper piercer again. I pull off both sides. Same way that you guys did your corners. I do my bottom this, or my inside hinges this way. Oh, I totally just stuck that down. That was not good. Jam it into the corner. Preferably evenly jam it into your corner. I can't actually see what I'm doing, so I have to go this way, unfortunately. Because I can't get my head at the angle that I want to. But jam it into your corner as hard as it can go. And stick it down. We're going to get our bone folder in there as well. The bottom. Okay. Time for me to do the next one. And again, I always start by testing how much I need to trim off. All right, so that one fits. And again, you want to go very, very small increments when you guys are trimming stuff off. Okay. Get my bone folder in here. And I'm going to burnish that down as well. I'm going to do my back. Now, I always like my back hinge to be my prettiest because when you open up the box, that's actually what you're going to see. So I always try to make my back hinge nice and pretty. Okay, just a little bit more here. Beautiful. I've kind of become overrun by the little ends here, but I will clean those up in just a moment. Take off the back to both of my pieces. Push that into my corners. And stick it down. Get my bone folder in there. There we go. And your last hinge should be your front hinge here. Turn my hinge inside out. Test it. Definitely need to trim some off. That should be way more than enough. Or not. Strange. Okay, that fits. Pull the backing off. And as always, tuck that hinge in there nice and tight. And then stick it down, okay? Got my bone folder. Reinforce that fold or that burnish in there. And on this side. Turn it on its side. Sorry you guys can't see this one. Alrighty. So we have the full construction of our box. Alright guys, this is what your completed memory box looks like. The top, the bottom, the two sides, the back, and the front, and of course your inside. As I said before, if you guys are going to be leaving this overnight once you have constructed it, go ahead, flip it upside down like so. Put a couple of book weights on it. It will train your paper to fold and remain that way, as well as your chipboard. So thank you so much for joining me for part 2, the assembly of our 8x8 memory box, basic memory box. In part 3, we will be going over the decoration as well as the ribbon stopper for this box. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe, and I hope to see you guys for part 3. Thanks a lot, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.